republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And as I look down the table, I see that we're all present this evening. So we'll start on with the business, and we only have one item on the agenda. The public forum to interview applicants to fill the vacancy on the city council and possibly an appointment. Before we begin, I would like to thank the committee. I know that we had, Joe, would you like to announce your committee members?
Committee members Joanne Osborne and Dick Sousa.
And I would just, on a casual conversation, want to ask you how you formed that committee and how you came up with some of the resolutions to it.
Well, I guess on the form of the committee, it was what the short straw, I guess, on the night before. It managed on who was available for the committee, and we ended to fall into it. So I know me and Joanne was on the committee before, and we were hoping possibly we could change that up, but as a result of other schedules, we ended up on the committee. So we took our role seriously, worked on questions, had an open forum, and I think we had the press there on the day we were deciding, how we were going to go about it. One of the concerns I had before was that the interview. I wanted to make sure that we had an interview process with all the candidates. I know the one we had before had, I think, 18, 19 candidates. This time we had 7 candidates. But I wanted to make sure we interviewed all the candidates so they all had a chance to, do their bid for the actual position itself. They were all excellent candidates. It was a very tough decision. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion, and whatever we could come up with. Again, I know we're limited in what we can speak on here, but the tough part was to come up with a consensus that, for all of us, that 3 out of 3 could pick the 3 that would be here. So as a result of that, you see the candidates in front of you today. They were asked a lot of questions. We looked at their background. We also looked at their involvement in the community, their knowledge of city issues, and we asked them specific questions as a result of that. So with that, before you see the 3 candidates. And again, it was, tough. Again, very interesting, our discussions, but, we had to give you something to choose, and here's what we have tonight. And I think it's a broad range of backgrounds of individuals up here for you to select from.
I thank you, and I thank the entire committee for your hard work, your concentration, your dedication. Thank you. I guess I'll start this out right now. I'm going to skip down a little bit on the agenda. Is that all right with you? I'm going to tell you before, I have other things to say before this, but because of that shout out, I would like you all to know in this public forum. First of all, let me assure you, I will clear the room. I will clear the room of that person that might be shouting out and the other people are behaving themselves. So I just want you to know that is my right, and I will do it. Candidates will be seated, excuse me. The candidate will be seated together at the table like you see. Questions will be rotated. There will be a time limit. The timer will be set at 2 minutes. No signs will be allowed in the audience, no clapping, no cheering, no follow-up questions from the council. Each council member can ask an interview question. This is not a debate. Candidates cannot engage each other in discussion and will stick to the issues. Each candidate will get 1 minute to introduce themselves and no audience questions or public comment. I will repeat some of these before we get. I just wanted to make that statement since we had this outburst, and I'm just not going to allow that to happen. I want this to be fair for all 3 candidates because our committee has worked hard to make sure that happens. So let's get on with the business. The public forum interview applicants to fill the vacancy, the city council, and a possibly appointment. Council will interview the following candidates alphabetically in public forum for a possible appointment to fill the council seat vacated by Frank Cavalier's resignation. We did it in alphabetical order, so that meant Elizabeth Torrey Anderson is first, Gary Gelser, you are second, and Robert Williams, you are third. There will be 7 questions asked by the council. The first question, candidates will have 1 minute. The other questions, you will have 2 minutes. And at this time, I'll have the city clerk explain the timer. No, it's not. You need a microphone.
No. You have a timer in front of, in the center of the table. The green light will go on when you start answering your question. The yellow light will go on when you have 30 seconds left. So it's just a heads up that you need to wind down. And the buzzer will go off at the end of the 2 minutes. Okay?
Thank you. After question 7, the council, upon a roll call vote, may convene or execute an executive session as posted for the following: for a discussion or consideration of an appointment of a public officer, appointee, and employee of a public body. So at this time, I need to make the motion to have the interviews. Is that what I'm doing?
You don't need a motion.
Okay, so we'll start with the interview at this time. So we're starting with Tori Anderson. And Tori, I believe I have the first question. Please introduce yourself to the council and the public in attendance, and you have 1 minute response. And this is because some people may not know who you are and what you stand for, so this gives you 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Tori Anderson, and I've been a resident of Goodyear since 2008. Most people here probably don't know me because I'm an outsider to city politics. I saw the council vacancy and I wanted to apply because I felt that I can offer a unique perspective to the council, being a stay-at-home mom to 2 little children, and also being involved in public policy and public advocacy in my career. I felt that I could bring a new perspective that's not currently on the council right now, of the younger families in the city, of the families with small children and children in school, and what our needs and concerns are. And I have a master's degree in public administration. I've worked under Janet Napolitano in her budget and strategic planning office. I've worked with Phoenix Mayor Phil Gordon, and I've also worked as an assistant commissioner for public and special projects with the Arizona Department of Real Estate. I have a background of involvement here in the state, including with, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. Thank you. Just in time.
Tori, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gary Gilzer.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Gelzer. I've lived in Goodyear for over 10 years, and in Arizona for almost 15. I've actively been involved in the city for the past 9 years by serving as a volunteer on many committees and commissions. Recently, I served on the 2010 Citizens Budget Committee while continuing to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission as its chairman. In addition to the previous mentioned groups, I also served on the 2003 General Plan Committee, the Citizens Bond Committee, the Citizen Tax Committee, and the Higher Education Committee. Over the past 9 years, I have attended 90% of the City Council's public meetings and its work sessions. I've also taken time to speak out on important issues that have faced the Council and have always worked towards a solution that will benefit all of Goodyear. I have 20-plus professional years of business background. I've worked in several industries in a variety of functional jobs for both public and private companies. I've also...
Thank you very much, Mr. Gelzer. Robert Williams.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Robert Williams. I've lived in the city for 8 years. I am currently a Planning and Zoning Commissioner. I have served as chairman of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee and chairman of the Brownfields Committee. I spent my corporate life, I spent 35 years in the corporate world, and I was able to travel extensively across the United States and get to know a little bit about a lot of cities. I've been to a lot of real nice places. 1, I chose Goodyear, but 2, I've been to places like Redmond, Washington, Pasadena, La Jolla, Evanston, Ann Arbor. I know what the city of Goodyear can aspire to, and I've also been to a number of lackluster bedroom communities. I know what can happen without proper planning, and I want to be part of the team that makes sure that Goodyear lives up to the vibrant future and its motto.
Thank you. Shall we go to the next question? Is Councilwoman Campbell?
I'm going to start with you, Tori.
Okay.
Goodyear residents often identify themselves from certain neighborhoods. How would you go about building a sense of community, bringing all of the groups together?
Okay. Well, first of all, it's important to visit communities and get to know people. I know that through schools, you can certainly bring people together, and I have a little girl who's starting kindergarten next year, and I'm actually sending her to a school in Goodyear. One of the best ways to involve people is to find their interests. Go out and talk to them and find out what they need and what they want, and to bring different neighborhoods together, like the historic neighborhoods in Estrella and Palm Valley. You really have to reach out and find out what is interesting them. You know, the thing you don't want is to have them all find a common enemy, like the Superfund site. You know, we want to make sure we're taking care of that, and that we're not bringing people together in a negative way. We want to bring people together positively to make sure that our city is growing and developing jobs, smart growth, sustainable growth, and developing the good, high-paying, innovative jobs that we need in the science and technology areas.
Thank you. Councilwoman Loretano?
Oh, wait, still got more.
I thought you wanted to go back and forth. I'm misunderstanding your directions.
Is that what you're doing?
Well, no, I misunderstood him. So we're going to come down this way? All right, you just have to, because I've been told two things, so let's.
No, I need to ask,
Mr. Gelser needs to answer the same question.
Okay, all right. Scary,
would you like me to repeat it?
you should.
Yes, please.
Goodyear residents often identify themselves from neighborhoods that they reside in. How would you go about bringing all of the neighborhoods together, making a sense of community?
I think the city has started to do that already with several different events that it sponsors and runs. The GAIN event in particular used to be a neighborhood event where council would visit certain neighborhoods, and the GAIN event has changed itself to a citywide event by the utilization of the stadium. Another group that has had a real positive impact in the city is Goodyear in Action, and they have reached out across neighborhood lines by pure citizen involvement, and they have brought communities together to do different things. Lastly, the Centennial Commission that the city is actually running is something that is probably an important factor in bringing all of Goodyear together. And I think by reaching out to the different communities and getting them involved in these type of events will bring the community better together.
Thank you. Robert Williams?
Well, it's a very good question and a very big issue. One thing you have to do is walk the streets, but one thing the city does very well, more than a lot of other cities, is when there are issues, they solicit citizen input on various committees. I know I've been on a few committees, and there are many more than the ones that I've been on, and you get to know people from different part of the cities, and you get to get perspectives from people from different part of the cities. And again, the city needs to continue to have events. I think we started this market at the ballpark on May 7th is the next one. I think affairs like that, we have one down at Estrella Mountain. I think affairs like that bring citizens together and help people understand that their little community.
Thank you. And the next question is Councilwoman Loretano.
And I believe I start with Mr. Gelser, right? Okay. Understanding the current limitations with the city budget, what do you see as the biggest need that the city should provide to its residents when finances allow? And it's a 2-minute response.
The budget has been under pressure for the last 3 years, and we have avoided repairing our streets, and we have avoided putting new vehicles for public safety and for our public works department back on the street. Those are two items that, as the budget frees up, I think we need to be more proactive in basically fulfilling those needs. We have a very vast set of assets that both the city have built and the developers have built, and they have been deeded over to the city. And if we don't maintain those assets, we will fall into disrepair. The other thing that I would really like, if we can ever pull this one off, I really think a library is a key. I'd love to see the city center. I really, knowing the budget for the last several years that I've seen, city center is just not going to happen over the next few years. But a library, and if we could pull off some of the infrastructure at a library, I think that would be a key to bringing the city, starting the city in the right direction, and I think that would provide a benefit for all of the citizens.
And I believe it. Do you need me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Understanding the current limitations with the city budget, what do you see as the biggest need that the city should provide to its residents when finances allow?
The first thing I believe that always has to be provided for is proper staffing and training for law enforcement, for the police force. And I think that has to come first. After that, I know there are some issues with the city. I think the annexation in the southern portion of the city has to be a drain on the city's resources. We need to figure out how to reduce that. And I think I did have an idea in my application. But then we need to reverse the situation, and to do that, we need to, it's good news that the mall may be starting again next year, and we need to do whatever it takes to fill in around the mall and make sure that the mall is a success, because the success of the mall will do a number of things. One, it'll provide sales tax revenue, and it will reignite the growth that the city needs to obtain the funds that it really needs to do to get to the premier location that a lot of us envision.
Would you like me to repeat it for you?
Let me just make sure I understand the question. Is it where you think the money should be spent when funds are available?
Well, let me just read it. Might be helpful.
Sure.
I know
Thank
when
you.
you're last. Understanding the current limitations with the city budget, what do you see as the biggest need that the city should provide to its resident when the finances allow?
Okay, thank you. I believe that we need to make sure our public safety is funded. As a mother, I want to make sure that if I ever needed to call 911, that the best and the finest are at my door to help my children and my community, to keep our community safe. I also think we should continue providing clean water, safe streets, safe bridges. One thing that I don't think we necessarily need to focus on is the city center, and I don't think we actually need a new library either. As a mom of 2 kids, I think the library we have is just fine. And when I need more, we're a region, so there are other places I can go, and I think we can certainly find other places to use our money. I would certainly want to hear from the citizens and find out where they think the priorities are, and not necessarily just what I think. I'm applying to be on the city council to be a representative of the citizens, and I represent a big chunk of people in this city, of moms and kids and families. And I understand budgets, I understand how they work, and I know how to read them, and I can certainly analyze a budget. And so I guess what I'm saying is, I think it needs to go back to the citizens. If there's more, if we get to a point where we have additional funding and we want to refund some of these projects that are on the waiting list right now, when I looked at the budget, I saw there's a waiting list. And I think we should always take it back to the citizens and represent what they're wanting, because that is how we can best be fiscally responsible with the money entrusted to us. Thank you.
Councilmember Souza, and you'll start with Robert Williams. No, Robert Williams. You're fourth. You're number four.
Mr. Williams, how many city council meetings have you attended in the past 6 months? And why have you chosen or not chosen to attend council meetings? You got 2 minutes.
I have not attended any city council meetings in the past month. I do read the minutes on occasion. I do watch them online. And I've attended every or almost every planning and zoning commission, so I know some of the issues that come before the council, and I know through the zoning commission I've had an opportunity to provide my input to the council on those issues. I mean, the basic answer to your question is 0. But I'm not sure that means that I'm not interested and I am not deeply involved in what goes on in the city.
Thank you. Mrs. Anderson. How many city council meetings have you attended in the past 6 months? And why have you chosen or not chosen to attend council meetings? You have 2 minutes.
I have not been to a single city council meeting, and the question is a little misleading in the sense, why have I chosen or not chosen? It just hasn't been something that I've chosen or not chosen to do. It just isn't something that's been on my radar for the last 6 months. Because I'm an average citizen. We have 65,000 residents of Goodyear, and what I care about is clean water and safe streets, and to make sure that the city is using the money appropriately. I haven't had a need to come to a city council meeting. I haven't had a complaint. I haven't needed to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gelder, how many council meetings have you attended in the past 6 months? And why have you chosen or not chosen to attend council meetings? 2 minutes.
In the last 6 months, I've been to most of the council meetings. I missed November, and every time, because I was out of the country, and every time I miss a meeting, something erupts. The last time I missed, the mayor decided to resign, and then the vice mayor decided to resign to run for mayor. So it was kind of like, I feel like if I attend the meetings, you guys aren't going to do anything, totally out of order, and go from there. The last 3 months, I actually was on the council as an interim council member, and I attended all the meetings, and found out that I had to go to a lot more meetings than I had originally anticipated. The staff told me I had to show up at certain things because I was the junior council member. The city needed representation, so I went. It was just like being in the Navy. When you're the junior officer, you go where you're told.
Thank you.
Tori, did you ask Tori? Yeah, you asked Tori. Okay, so the next one is.
Who do I start with? Who do I start with? Who do I start with?
I can start with Tori, yeah. Vice Mayor Pizzillo.
Okay, hi, Tori.
Hi.
In the next 2 years, what is the city's biggest challenge in economic development?
Okay. In the next 2 years, the biggest challenge is to bring in more small businesses, more local businesses, unique businesses here to our city to make us distinct, to make us stand out among the other cities in the region, to make us a go-to point for the creative class, which are the people who are looking for a place to live that's unique and distinct. We also need to bring in high-paying jobs And how do we do that? Science and technology. It's not necessarily through tax breaks, in my opinion. There are other ways to do it, and I think as a council and as a city, we can move our city to be a place where people want to live, where we are a destination city. We are an upscale desert community. We can work regionally with the other cities nearby to bring those high-paying jobs here, because if Avondale gets an Intel, then guess what? Goodyear wins too, because those people are going to shop in Goodyear. And if we get an Intel or Google or some kind of high-tech facility, then Avondale wins or Litchfield Park wins. I think we need to do more regionally together to make this the Southwest Valley a go-to place. Thank you.
Gary, in the next 2 years, what is the city's biggest challenge in economic development?
I think all the answers that Tori gave are appropriate. I think one of the key things that we have to do is to work with our state legislature to prevent them from getting into the city's business. The city has the ability to manage its own affairs, to promote its own economic development, and to bring new housing and commercial and industrial development to it. The state legislature is trying to take both state shared revenues and to take development fees, which pays for new development from the cities. If the cities don't work together to prevent this, we are going to be back in another budget crisis. So I think we need to proactively try to ensure that our state does not try to balance its problems on the back of the citizens of Goodyear.
Thank you. Is it Bob or Robert? Bob?
My friends call me Bob.
Bob? In the next 2 years, what is the city's biggest challenge in economic development?
As I touched on earlier, I just firmly believe the mall looming on the horizon is the elephant in the room. I mean, the city has to aggressively pursue businesses to fill in around that mall and support the mall and do absolutely everything possible to make that mall succeed. If the mall flops one more time, it'll be a big setback to the city. If the mall succeeds, it'll draw shoppers that will provide sales tax revenue. It will provide residents, and it's just very key to reigniting growth within the city of Goodyear. And I can touch on the second idea that I have too, which is the south end of Goodyear. I think something really has to be done there, and I think maybe we need to do something maybe off the wall, like consider trying to attract an Indian casino resort down there to jumpstart development down in that end of the city. That also would spur extension of the 303, which again would spur more development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Osborne?
The last few questions that have been asked of you have been questions of issues, questions pertaining to economic development, things like that. However, the true core part of this job as a council member is leadership. And the question that we would like to ask you is about your leadership skills. And so I will be starting with Bob. And I'd like you to describe a situation in which you were in a position of leadership. What challenges did you encounter, and how did you address them? If you need a minute to think about that, I understand. But if you're ready to go.
Thank you very much. I can start now. I guess the one example, a few years ago when we did the curbside recycling and solid waste program, I was fortunate enough to be on that committee. I was elected chairman of that committee, and we spent over a year and developed what I think everybody here today has to agree is a very, very good trash pickup and curbside recycling program. The biggest issue, and the one that we tackled last on that, was going from 2 trash pickups a week to 1. And there were a lot of people that were very reluctant, and when we got to that point, everybody else on the committee, and if Brian Barnes or Rob Antoniak were here, I think they would back me up on this. Everybody else on the committee assumed that we were going to keep the 2 pickups a week, and I started asking questions about where's the price of gas going? How much more gas are we going to have to pay for our trucks? How many times a week are we going to have trash trucks in neighborhoods with children running the streets? And one by one, they came to agree, and so we proposed the plan that we did that had 1 weekly collection, and we came to council, and I made the presentation to council, and a couple of you were on the council, and very, very reluctant, if I remember right, to go to 1 day per week for trash pickup. And we went that way, and we introduced the program. Paula did some wonderful training. Paula did some wonderful training, and I think we heard very, very few complaints about going from 2 to 1 days a week for refuse collection. And I think even today, you know, with the price of gas,
Thank you.
it was a fabulous decision.
Okay, Gary, same question, or Tori, would you like me to repeat it?
No, thank you. A few years ago, I had a new boss, and he was a real estate commissioner, and we had a new commissioner. And he sent me with the task of going through our statute book, going through our rule book, and reducing unnecessary regulation on business while still protecting the public. So what I did was I got a group of people together, work groups. They were made up of people who were the citizens, the people who are being affected, protected, the licensees, the real estate licensees, the developers. We had people from the Home Builders Association, the realtors. We had licensees. We had the public. And then we also had people I also gathered people on the committee who worked every day at the Department of Real Estate enforcing these regulations. So I had these three groups. I probably had about 30 people in the room. And let me tell you, they didn't agree. They never do. But we worked very hard. We spent the whole summer working on this. And we had to come up with some compromises of how we could all work together to reduce unnecessary regulation on these licensees while still protecting the public and not putting any additional or burden on the employees. They were very valuable in the conversation. And there were fights, there were arguments, but it was civil. We kept it respectful, we kept it responsible, and at the end of the summer we had some legislation to pass through the legislature. And we were able to pass it because we all agreed and worked together ahead of time. And I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Geller.
For the last 3 years, I was chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And a lot of chairmen that I've seen at other planning and zoning commissions basically walk in, they've read their packet, they grab the gavel, start the meeting, and run the meeting, and end the meeting, and that's the extent of their participation. They're one of 7 commissioners. Over the past years, I've taken it upon myself to go to the development advisory forums, to work with developers, to basically try to allow a positive decision to come out of the Planning and Zoning Commission that is right for the developer and is also right for the city of Goodyear. I have, one of my famous quotes on the Planning and Zoning Commission is, would you like a postponement or would you like a denial? You can have either. And it tends to work. And I think through that I've been able to get people to actually figure out a way to compromise both staff and the applicant so that eventually we'll get a good decision that comes out of it.
I believe I have the last question. And even though Gary just spoke, he ends up in this rotation as first this time. So does anybody want any changes in that, or shall I just go with it? Mr. Gelzer, is there anything else that you would like us to know about you and your qualifications for this position? And you have a 2-minute response.
Okay. In my opening remarks, I never did get to tell you about my education, but I have a bachelor's degree from Northwestern University. I have an MBA from Dartmouth College, and I have a master's in science and geography from St. Cloud State University. I did my research and wrote my thesis on land use development, and actually proved some of the land use theories that were happening in the late 90s that were core to my beliefs. The other thing is I'm a retired Navy officer. I served on 2 different guided missile destroyers. I also served in the Republic of Vietnam and helped to run the port of Da Nang. I'm a retired lieutenant commander in the Navy. The other thing is, last but not least, I really don't need this job. This is for the benefit of the city of Goodyear. I can bring you my expertise. I can bring you my desire to serve. I can bring you, my abilities, and that's what I can bring you. I have no axe to grind as far as this city goes. I don't have an axe to grind as far as a certain area of the city. I don't have an axe to grind against a certain people. Whatever happens, I want for the betterment of the city. I live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Tori, is there anything else you would like us to know about you and your qualifications for this position?
Sure, thank you. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. And what you need to know about me is that I am passionate and committed. And as Mr. Gelzer, I'm not looking for this job for the money.
Hope not.
Yeah.
You'd be very disappointed.
The reason why I'm here is because I care about the city. I have 2 small children. I want to see this city to be a place where I can live, work, and play. I would love to see some better jobs in this city, higher paying jobs in this city. There are lots of things that I enjoy about the city, and I like living here, and I'm not angry living here. I think it's a nice place to live. I moved here from Avondale, which I like Avondale too, but I moved here because I love the beauty of this city. I think we have a lot to offer, and I think that part of what I bring to the city council is just that I have no ties, no political ties at all coming in here. I come in fresh, I come in unique, and I come here to represent the citizens. That's my goal, is to just represent the views of the citizens and what they need and what they want, and to bring my background in public policy to the table as well, that I'm not a dummy. I can look at the budget, and I can look at public policy. I can analyze it. I know what it is, and I think this would be a very a fun opportunity to serve the city, and I appreciate, again, being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to read this again, as I said before. We got Bob. I tell you, tonight I just don't. I'm going to leave somebody out tonight, don't we? I'll tell you what. I'm sorry about that. So could we hear from you now?
Sure.
Thank you.
I touched on it earlier. Again, I have an affinity for law enforcement. In my 35 years at Ford Motor Company, I spent a number of years as the government sales manager, and in that position, I was responsible for the production and sale of police cars, among other things. After I left Ford, I served on the board of directors of A4S a small security company in Colorado, who later merged with Pepperball. And the products we offered were video surveillance, including video cameras could be mounted in police cars. And then with A4S and Pepperball, we got into non-lethal weapons. And throughout all of those endeavors, I was able to go to a number of police car or law enforcement conferences around the country and meet with a lot of the command staff of agencies at all levels, from small cities up to the California Highway Patrol. I just have a strong affinity for law enforcement. I think it's very, very key that our police force is staffed and trained, and I think we need to develop a police force that people from all over the country recognize and want to come and join our police force, and we want them trained so that they don't do things that cause us to have million-dollar lawsuits.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's see if I can get back on the right schedule here. So I will again read that to notify all of you that we may convene into an executive session. Will be for consideration and discussion of the appointment of a public officer, appointee or employee of public body. At this time, I need a motion to go into executive session. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It was a motion by Council Member Souza and second by Councilman Loretano. So we will adjourn into an executive session. Oh, my God. Well, thank you for telling me how to do this. I appreciate that.
Councilmember Sousa.
Thank you.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Now we'll adjourn to executive session.
We're
Convene the meeting, and we'd like a presentation by our lawyer.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The action item you have in front of you this evening is as defined in our city charter, that once we had a vacancy in the council, which occurred following the resignation of Frank Cavalier, given the fact that he was in the second half of his term of office, city charter requires that the city council either, one, appoint a member to replace him for the final term of his office, or two, you can call a special election to fill that seat if the council is unable to fill that term within 30 days. We're within that time period, within the 30-day time period for which the council has the authority to appoint the replacement. I would note, just for the record, that the charter has a pretty rigid process for how you fill out a council seat. Some questions have been raised about whether or not you could go to the pending runoff election, appoint one of those persons to fill the seat, and then cancel that election. But two, there's a couple of reasons why that wouldn't work, and one is the rigidity of the city charter, that it does have the defined process that you do have to have this call a special election, and you can't deviate from that process. So, secondly, a practical consideration, the contracts are already entered with the county on that election. The money was already spent. The money was already committed to that process. So really, any attempt to deviate from the charter-approved process wouldn't have the financial consideration that members of the public have asked about. So I certainly can answer any more questions you may have on that issue as well. Second issue, there has been some questions about potential issues of conflict of interest involving campaign contributions and whether or not that creates a conflict of interest on making a decision in filling a council position. What I would say is, if you look at Arizona conflict of interest law, it's really a prospective statute that you can't make a decision that will result in a pecuniary gain to yourself from that decision, i.e., I can't award a contract that's going to result in a direct monetary gain for myself coming back from that forward action, not an action that reflects into the past, a retroactive action. So looking at Arizona conflict of interest law, just because a person may or may not have received a campaign contribution does not result in a conflict of interest under Arizona statutes. So I know those are two issues that have been raised in the public, and council did have questions. I did want to answer those. So hopefully, if you have any further questions on that, I can answer those this evening. Moving forward, I think the next course of action is the mayor is going to open the floor up for public comment. I think you're going to allow 3 minutes as our standard procedure. And after that, I think council is going to discuss the possible appointment for a replacement. And at that point, if council so desires, I'll make a motion and attempt to fill that seat this evening, resulting in a person being sworn in this evening. So with that, if you have any other questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, it's
Questions?
Fine.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you.
And now we're going to open it up for public comment.
Roger Matlin gave me a speaker card. I don't know if it's for this item or under the general comments. He didn't put it what it was on top that he wanted to speak to.
Did you hear that, Mr. Matlin? Is it for this moment, or is it for a non-agenda item?
Okay, he wants to speak under citizen comment.
All right, then that comes later. Could you just come up to the microphone? I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. We want to be fair to you.
Good evening, Roger Matlin, Goodyear, Arizona. And I actually would have liked to have submitted a card for a public comment on this issue, but according to your documentation, you weren't allowing public comments.
No, we were not allowing public comment during the time that we were doing the interview. Isn't that what
That's correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Public comments allowed.
So this is the time, if you want to make a comment on the process that's gone on this evening,
Okay, well, if I may then, is that acceptable?
that's acceptable.
Okay. Well, having been out of town for a few weeks.
Excuse me, just before we start, don't start it, I don't want to, you know you have a time limit on this, right?
Yes, of
All right.
course. I know you'll drag me out of here if I exceed the 3 minutes, so.
All right, time starts.
I wasn't familiar with this whole process that was going on until I came back into town recently. So I would like to just point out that I was a little disappointed in the process, being that you were interviewing people here for, I think it was 2 minutes. And that seems like a very short period of time to come up with an answer. And you can't run a city or manage the taxpayers' money in 2 minutes. You really ought to take the time to make the public hearing a true public hearing, and allow the speakers and the candidates, or the people that applied for this position, to speak up properly. So, and I will say, and I don't know if this person will get upset with me for saying it, but other than by name, I think, is it Tori Anderson, I thought was the best of the 3 candidates, because she actually expressed an interest in the city and the citizens and the taxpayers here in Goodyear, as opposed to the other candidates that seem to be looking to build Indian casinos, and I don't know what Gary Gelser is trying to do, but so that's just my opinion, and hopefully you'll take that into account.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I think you have some people who would
There
like to
are
speak
other
with additional
people in the
cards.
audience that would
Oh.
like to speak. You can fill out a card later if you'd like to get up.
Please state your name and your address.
Yeah, Kenneth Going, 15944 West Pinchard Avenue, Goodyear, Arizona. My intention was not to get up and speak tonight because I was very happy with the way the board was doing things. But I want to bring up the fact that, to remind Mr. Matlin, which I think it deserves him being reminded, that when he first screeched out and yelled, it was way before anybody was asked questions whether the answers were to be given in 1 minute or 2 minutes or an hour and a half. So you got to get your story straight, Mr. Matlin. When you go to say something, know what you're talking about to start with, and don't try to make things up. And personally, I don't think it's correct for you to favor one of the three candidates, and I'm sure that the young lady is probably upset that you did do that. But please try and get your directions straight as far as making statements the way you just said them. Thank you.
Any other ones? Any other citizens would like to make a comment? I'm going to open the discussion to council. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and start. First of all, I want to thank all the candidates that were here tonight. I appreciate you giving time for service, and I will let you know we can't discuss specifically what was going on in executive session, but I can tell you it was very thorough, sometimes a little contentious, and you may see that tonight when we finally get to that point. But first of all, I want to thank, and I'll just go down through the list there. Tori, I know you're a newcomer. I appreciate the passion. Your point of view specifically may not typically be where my focus is, but no, I appreciate the fact that you're pushing community, sense of collaboration, listening to others, and then hopefully come up with a solution. I appreciate the response you gave on your answer on how you would go about resolving things. Bob, I really like the fact with your background. Again, I'm a finance guy myself in corporate. I like all the service that you've done to the city. I really appreciate the Kirby example that you gave when you thought outside the box. I appreciate the fact that you were able to get the city to do that because, we've had, one-time pickup on sanitation, and they changed that, and you know how that blew up, okay? So maybe if we had somebody like you thinking outside of the box when they were doing that, that may have been prevented. So I appreciate your contributions, and I also appreciate you continuing on there, doing what you're doing. Gary, again, I appreciate coming. I appreciate the service that you give to the community. I also appreciate the fact that you come, and again, I don't know what you do in the evenings besides showing up here, but you actually come and add some questions, a variety of things to the council. I appreciate you wanting to step up and serve as well. I'd like to thank all of you, no matter what we do as we go forward. All are great, and I would always, whatever happens tonight as we move forward, continue to, to work in the community and provide whatever your passion is to help this be a great community. I believe we turned the corner here, from the finance, but we still need to, again, I'm a real strong proponent of building a sense of community where we're all in this together and how we can make a community that we're all proud of, not just for work, not just for play, but grow a business as well. So with that, again, I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and again, I appreciate you being here.
Joanne?
Yes, thank you. First of all, to the three of you, I have to tell you that leadership is something that I try to mentor teenagers with, and I have to say that all three of you showed great leadership skills by just stepping up and wanting to help your community, and I truly appreciate that. I also think you did an awesome job sitting there with 2 minutes or 1 minute and coming up with answers to our questions. I think you did a fabulous job. I hope that each one of you continues working in our community because it takes all of us together, and I know that each one of you are passionate about that, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Anyone else? No, please, go ahead.
Okay. This was a new process of selecting a candidate to fill office. And the three people who were the finalists was very, very difficult to make a selection because they were so talented and so knowledgeable about the function of the city. And to me, that was the criteria that, in all probability, made my decision an easy one. I want to thank everybody that participated in this effort, and it just shows the pride that all of us have for the city of Goodyear. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Councilman Overtano.
I just wanted to thank all three candidates and everyone who's here. Putting yourself in front of people was not an easy task, I know, for some of you, especially how the meeting started out. So I do appreciate that. It's not easy. I was very, very impressed with all of your credentials and all of your resumes on the applications, and I want to thank the committee for bringing forth 3 very qualified candidates. And whether you're selected or not, I want you to realize it's no reflection on any one person. We only have 1 seat to fill, and any of you that have been involved or would like to get more involved, I would appreciate that, or any input you have on how we do it. Please come to the meetings. Please talk to us. Please get involved, because I am so impressed with all of you, and you've all done an absolutely stellar job and wonderful job during the interview. So thank you very much. The city is in a win-win situation with all of you. Thank you.
I would like to thank all of those that, oh, I'm sorry. Molly, I didn't realize you wanted to comment. Go ahead, Molly.
I'm sitting a little lower.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's because I need to rest my foot. Sorry, and I'm at the last of the seats, at least for another half an hour. I just want to let all of you know, I'm sure most of you in the room know that I ran 2 years ago, and I won one election, and then I was in a runoff, and I lost. And I took a week off, and I came back to council meetings, and I have been to council meetings, and I have worked in the community because I love Goodyear. And for whoever is not selected tonight, I want you to stay active and stay working with us to make Goodyear the wonderful, wonderful city it is. I don't want you to get discouraged, because if anyone could have been discouraged, it would have been me. But I just decided I wanted to help the council be the best it can be, and that's why I was elected by the people in the last election, and I'm thrilled to be here to do what I can. So thank you to not only the 3 finalists, I want to thank all of the candidates, all of the citizens who took time to even apply to be a council member. It's very important that that you know it is appreciated, because it takes an inordinate amount of time and dedication to do what we do. While I thought I knew the city, which I do, and I thought I knew the time constraints, which I don't, because it is almost overwhelming with how much you need to do to this community to be out there and work with them. But we have the most wonderful neighborhoods, and we have wonderful neighborhood leaders who are willing to work with council and make their neighborhoods the best there is in Goodyear. And all of us up here intend to do that. And with whomever is selected tonight, we will expect that person to jump right into the fray with us and work together to make Goodyear all it can be. Thank you.
Councilman Pizzillo?
Just one last thing. When we did this a couple of years ago, one of the issues that I had, and I know was quoted accurately in the newspaper, was try to open up the process. And I know it's been heartbreaking on some. I know we had 7 turn it in. And again, you know, it hasn't been really easy on me either, to tell you the truth. But I felt really strong about the fact that we had to have an open process. An open process where everybody had a chance, because I can tell you during this process, the interviews made a difference, okay? At least in my mind, all right? I thought it was important so everybody could come in, state their case. We had 3 diverse people on our committee. What we tried to do was come with an overwhelming agreement with all 3 on who we would move forward. So there had to be 3 on each 3, whatever that's worth. And to do that from a public standpoint, I thought it was important, because I know there was a lot of people, you know, maybe not were real happy last time the way it was handled. I took it on, and I know there was other council members with me that wanted to have that process, you know, and we did interview. And again, I want to thank everybody who applied. It's tough. You only have 1 position open, and I mean, there's 7 good candidates. So you got to get down to 1, and that's the tough part, you know. I mean, there's 6 disappointed people when you get done, and we've got a great community. We've got great candidates, you know, and I think it's a great thing that they want to take the time, you know, to donate, because I can tell you right now, it's not for the money, all right? Once you get in here and you find the time, and I got a slight taste of it as mayor for 4 months, there's a heck of a time commitment on this stuff. And again, you got to really be committed, and you really want to do this. And I appreciate the fact that we had the numbers that we did that wanted to give up, to give their time to the community. My only suggestion is don't stop with that. There's a lot of, you know, one door shops, there's always another one that opens. Please continue, because this is a great community, And it's not going to happen with just a handful. We need everybody pitching in to make this a great place. And I would ask all who applied and those that haven't to continue working to make this the greatest place. Thank you.
I also would like to thank all the candidates that applied, those that did not make this evening. I appreciate your dedication to the city, and I know that you all were very sincere in the direction that you stated you wanted to see your city move in. Tonight might have been a little rough. You probably have many suggestions on how it could be improved, but we had the public seek this out, and they wanted us to do this publicly. I had my apprehensions about this, but I went along as a consensus builder here and decided we would go ahead and do this. So I thought it was a good opportunity for you, the public, to hear the candidates. They were questioned probably to a bigger degree in conference, wouldn't you say? About the same? About the same? You felt same time frame?
Yeah.
Same time frame? Okay, so I think everybody's been treated fairly. So now we've come to the time that we're going to let you know who is going to be the next council person for the next 2 years to fill Council Member Cavalier's spot. So I'd like to ask for the motion to include the name.
Madam Mayor, I place in nomination to fill the expired term or the resigned term of Councilman Cavalier, the name of Gary Gelzer.
Do I hear a
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sousa,
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne,
Nay.
Vice Mayor Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano,
Nay.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 4-2.
So the candidate that was chosen is Gary Gelzer. You will be the new council person for the next 2 years, and now we will have the swearing in. Lynn?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. State your name after I.
I, Gary Gelzer,
Do affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I do affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and defend them against all enemies whatever,
and defend them against all enemies whatever.
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of council member
I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of council member
according to the best of my ability, so I do affirm.
according to the best of my ability, so I do affirm.
Yes, Councilman Gelzer, please take your seat. And now is the time that we'll speak on non-agenda items. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on a non-agenda item? Do we have? Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm Tori Anderson of, do I need my address? 18620 West Sweet Acacia Drive. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to interview with you today, and I congratulate Mr. Gelzer on his appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Any information items?
I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Easter
Oh.
this Sunday.
Thank you. And with that, is that it? Any other thing from the meeting adjourned?